It's a cool morning here in the mountains of southern Appalachia. Matt and I are out and about early this morning seeing what we can get accomplished. You can see him back there in the back. He's working on a set of steps that will make it easier to get to the raised beds that we put on the bank last winter. The beds did wonderful. Really added to our growing space. We're able to grow more because of those beds, and we really enjoyed them, and really the plants did really well. The only problem was getting up there to them. When we first started early in the spring, it was easier because we'd had our friend Thomas, cut all the stuff off the bank and everything was bare and open. But as the summer went on, it got kind of harder to go up and down the bank because of the bushes and the briars and the stuff that had grew back. So Matt working on the steps, that will really be a great improvement. And he don't have it fully all planned out yet, but I know it'll be great, whatever he comes up with. Probably one set of steps and then kind of a trail back and forth once you get up to that level between all the beds. While he's doing that, I'm going to go up in the front in the garden and check on the winter squash that we still have out. We've not harvested all of them. We've been waiting on the vines to dry and get brittle, so I think there's some up there that I can harvest, and then we can move them to the porch so they can be curing with the rest that we've got up there. Our winter squash did good this year, so we'll have lots of squash and cushaws and candy roasters and pumpkins to get us through the winter. Before I start on the winter squash, I'm going to get these beans. This has been on my to-do list for the last 3 or 4 days and I've not done it. These are some of the beans we were letting dry so that we could have the seed for next year. So that truly is the last of the beans for this year. These were those lovely, let's see if I can break one of them open, lovely beans that Matt and I were calling the paint bean. You can see how pretty they are. Look at that little space on them. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty. So we can't wait to, actually we'll have a lot to grow next year. This was one of the ones that Debbie didn't have many seeds from. So now we've got plenty to start next year, and I just can't wait to grow them again. They're so beautiful. They are a really late bearing bean though, as you can see. That's why we've waited all summer for them. And we only planted about 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the tops. But it took them a long time to actually start growing, mature. And then we've been letting them dry on the vine for a while now too. This lower end of the garden's where we usually put our winter squash. That's what we did this year. And as you can see, we've just let the weeds take over. We do have these beautiful flowers here in the front. And a lot of the winter squash we've already harvested, but there's still a few hiding in here that I need to get today. Matt and I are talking about, we have never ever grown a cover crop. Never. Like for, to enrich the soil, all the different benefits of it. We've never done that. But since he's got more time, since he's working with me, we're working together now, and he's not working a full-time job somewhere else. I'm hoping maybe this year we could do that. I guess we're running out of time pretty quickly. I never even thought about it till Pastor Lon was talking about it in one of his recent videos. And he said it really worked well for him and Robbie Lynn. They did it for the first time last year. So maybe that's something Matt and I can get done. But first, we need to clean this mess up. And the first step of that is definitely harvesting the winter squash. I'm excited about these pumpkins. You can see they're kind of kindly squat, I guess, if you will. Kind of flat, a flat pumpkin. This is the first time we've ever grown them. These are Long Island cheese pumpkins. A friend shared the seeds with us, and we tried to grow them last year, but none really, they didn't make, in other words, for us. Our winter squash wasn't as good last year for some reason. But this year we've ended up with these 3, so I'm really excited to try them and see how we like them compared to the other ones we grow. Another reason I want to clean this up and then get Matt to till it under. See that? That's a squash bug. And they really tormented us this year on our squash and especially on our cucumbers, which our cucumbers are in a different part of the garden. But I hope tilling this over will, their eggs and all that so that the cold weather of winter, you know, hopefully can dampen them too, dampen their enthusiasm for coming back the next year. So that's another reason we need to get this cleaned up. Everywhere in this part of the yard are acorns. The acorns are really falling off the trees. A real dream of mine is to actually make acorn flour. Maybe someday I'll get there. The cooler weather we've been having has really caused my nasturtiums to just put out some new growth. Beautiful big leaves. You can see this one almost as big as my hand. There's just tons of them that big. Down in here you can see one of my favorite things about the leaves of nasturtiums is how the water pulls on them and almost looks like diamonds. Isn't that just beautiful? Whoops. Even the ones that are still left though, those little ones, they just roll around like diamonds. Here's another leaf that has some water on it. We've been very, very dry. We've not had any rain much at all, but this is just heavy dew. We have really heavy dews here, so you can see the moisture. That's just from the dew overnight. Really lovely on the leaves though. While I've been working in the garden, Matt's made some progress up here. Tell us, Matt, what you've done so far.
Well, I've put in a board up top that the steps are actually going to run into. It's like a header type board, but it's also going to hold the dirt. I'm going to get up there and dig that down level back to the board, and it'll be like a little flat walkway. Once you top out with the steps and get off the last step, you can step onto the dirt up there once I get it leveled out, and it'll be level between the beds. On down below, I'm gonna have to do probably put some pavers or something in, because that's all uneven ground. But from here out, the rest of the way to the beds is pretty level. This will just be a way to get out of the yard nice and easy up the steps and not have to clamber up and down the rocky bank anymore. It's awful rocky and it's gonna be hard digging, but we'll get it done.
So it looks like you've used T-post. Is that what you've done? You dug down and...
Well, I was gonna dig down and put 4x4s in the ground to screw that thing to, but it's just too rocky, so I had these T-posts. So I drove them in the ground and then went back and drilled a hole in them so I can screw through them into the board so it'd hold it kind of steady. And I did it, kind of alternated the posts, one on one side, one on the other, and did the same thing on the other end. It kind of sandwiched that board between them. And then went back and drilled them and run a big decking screw through each one of those posts to secure it to where it really can't move. Then I went back with a hacksaw and sawed the top of the T-post off a little bit. Normally you do it with a sawzall, but my batteries was dead. They're old. I don't even know if they'll charge, so I just got an old-timey hacksaw and sawed them off. It's a little work, but I got it done. That's the way we used to do it all the time before we ever even heard of the sawzall.
So that may be all for today, but what would the next step be? The actual steps, or you gotta...
No, next thing I'm gonna do is dig that dirt down the level and make that little walkway up there and get that done, because that's gonna be the worst part of it probably. And I want to get that done, and that way then we'll start the steps, and once they're done, you'll have something to step onto once you get up there, something level instead of a slope or a hole, you know.
I see a big ivy bush right there in your way.
There's gonna be lots of roots and lots of rocks, but I'll get up there with the mattock and level it out and dig it all down against this board. That's a pressure treated board. It'll last, I don't know how long it'll last now. This new pressure treated don't seem to last long enough, but it'll probably outlast us, or at least it'll last long enough to where if it needs doing again, I'll be too old. Somebody else will do it.
Yeah, it won't be you fixing it.
Yeah, this will be the one and only time I'm doing this probably. So, God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. That's what they said, the youngins used to say.
Yeah, God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. I hadn't heard that in forever.
Kind of way out, if it did, I'd be dead years ago.
Me too. I'm like you today. I'm trying to be you.
You like that?
I like the grape.
Oh, it's about my favorite. I kind of got off the toenail popsicles and got onto these.
I've about got you out of frame.
It's alright. Everybody needs to look at me anyway.
A little better, maybe.
Yeah.
You got to start on the steps.
Yeah. About give out.
Well, you really got all winter to do it.
Yeah. But you keep scurrying up there peddling with stuff, and I'd rather get them done so you don't fall.
So I'm not going to fall and get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't like to fall either.
Falling's scary anymore. It didn't used to be scary at all, but when you slip now, it just almost make you take your breath a little bit, because it's fearful, and it didn't used to be that way.
It's been about 4 years ago, I guess, since I fell down Granny's steps. It was my own fault. And I had to go down there. She called me and I had to take her something, or I had to go get something. I can't remember. And it was raining, and I knew I should change my shoes, and I didn't. I wore my like a little pair of sandals I wear inside the house that are about wore out and they're slick on the bottom. And when I was leaving her house and come back, I didn't even know till I was on the ground that I had fell. I fell off the top step. My foot slipped, and I didn't go to the doctor or anything. But my goodness, it hurt me. It hurt worse. It like left an indentation in my rear end. It's still there today. Damaged the muscle, I guess. But it took me a long time to get over that, didn't it?
Yeah, it turned black and purple and yellow and green.
It hurt.
That was a hard lick.
I was so sore. Like in the next week, 2 weeks, I could barely walk. I was so sore. She heard me fall, and she come out there. It made a noise, I guess, and said, what's going on? Are you okay? And by that time, I jumped up real quick. I was like, I'm fine. Everything's all right. I just slipped a little, but I'm all right. I'll see you later. And after she shut the door, I like hobbled to the car. I drove because it was raining, and got in and drove home, and then barely could get in the house. I think you was going hunting or something.
No.
Seems like. And
Yeah,
Kim,
maybe on his
because I
own.
think our friend, Katie's friend Kim, was visiting with us, and I come in the door, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I fell down at Granny's." And it was already a big blue, deep blue indention on my rear end. But I didn't break nothing, so that was good.
But broke.
Yeah, I broke my rear. But that is, Matt's right. Nobody likes to fall.
Remember your daddy fell off a ladder one time, and he was one step up, and so he was a foot high,
Yeah.
but he got tangled. It was a step ladder, and he got tangled up somehow in that thing, and one of his legs, his left leg I believe it was, went through the ladder as he fell, and the ladder scissored shut as he fell and mashed his shin bone in between the two legs of the ladder, and it broke. It cracked his shin, and he hobbled on that for I don't know how long. It was, you know, your shin bones. You hurt your shin. It's painful.
Yeah.
But it literally cracked his shin. I think he ended up going to have it X-rayed, and it was cracked. But he was he was only one step up. But he had set the thing up on a pile of junk in a house we was building, a bunch of old scrap.
He was known for that.
Yeah, he wouldn't clean out a place to put his ladder. He'd just throw it up on anything. And that's what caused that.
Him and Papa Tony have that in common, huh?
Little dab, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've done it a few times, but I don't try to be conscious of that now and don't clean out a good level place for it. And I fell off the ladder one time, or the ladder fell out from under me. And ever since that happened, I've been real cautious of how the ladder's, what it's sitting on. And I've even took the time, a whole lot of time, especially a extension ladder, drove a board up in the floor and kind of fouled the feet of that thing where it can't slip out from under, because that's what happened to me. The feet of the ladder just swept out from under me, and I fell about 12 feet. Just so fast it was, you was already on the ground before you even know what happened. I mean, it's just crazy how fast that happens. And I was hurt, not bad, but I was hurt a little bit, and that kind of taught me. Take a little extra time and be careful.
Was that at the fellowship hall?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was somebody who was supposed to be holding it for you too, wasn't they?
Well, they were holding it, and then they turned loose and turned around to do something for somebody else, and then the thing flew out from under me.
Yeah.
Landed on concrete on my hands and knees from about 12 feet. And I was a lot younger then. I was, what would I have been? I'd have been mid-30s probably.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Bounced back pretty quick, but I don't want to do that again.
No. Daddy fell another time when y'all were working. Something broke with him or something. What was it?
He fell. We was setting trusses on the house, and he was, me and him both were up trying to get them set as I don't believe we had a crane setting them. I believe we was setting them by hand. But me and him, he was on one side of the house wall and I was on the other, and it seems like somebody was with us shooting the ends of them up to us. And if you get in a place in the house where there's interior walls, you can walk those walls as you're setting them. And he was standing on one of those and lost his balance or stepped off the side of the wall or something, and he went off. But he had hold of the truss and he never turned loose of it, and the whole truss flipped over onto the top of the house wall. And he had a hold of that thing, and he never let go of it, and when it came down on the house wall, he had hold of it and it broke in two. And then he went on, landed. He wasn't, at that point, he wasn't 2 or 3 feet off the floor at the time that it broke. But he landed on his feet and he was out of balance, and it all happened so fast that he kind of went sideways across the room and went into the outside wall of the house, and that kind of stopped him. And he wasn't hurt.
Scared you?
But yeah, it was scary to watch. It was like slow motion. But he was at that time, he would have been
Late 60s.
late
probably.
60s.
Mm-hmm.
But the next few days, he was so sore up his ribs and up under his arms from that, I guess, that sudden stop, hold of that thing, that he was, for a couple of weeks, he was real sore. But it's a good thing he held on to it. That's what kept him from getting hurt.
Yeah.
If he hadn't, he'd have fell off backwards and landed probably on his head or on his side in the floor from about 8 feet high, and that's hard on anybody, especially somebody that age.
Yeah.
But he was tough. It was hard to stop him.
Yeah, falls, even, especially if you fall from a distance like that, can hurt you, but sometimes any kind of fall. And Katie was in, I don't remember if she was in 4th grade or 5th grade, maybe 4th grade. They called me one day to come get her at school. She had slid up and fell, and it hurt her tailbone. It actually cracked it, I think, or chipped it or whatever. But I took her to the doctor, but there's nothing they can do for that but let it heal. But it would flare up and hurt her even when she was that little after she got over the fall. And then the same thing when I worked at the college for a time. Corey and Katie and Matt worked there too. They went to high school there on the same campus. And one day, since I worked there, someone come to my office and got me, one of the kids, and said, "Katie's fell and you need to come out here," or whatever. Anyway, she had slid up on one of the ramps outside, and it's the same thing. It hurt her tailbone again. So it still hurts her till this day. And your mama had that too. I don't remember how she had fell, but when she was young, and so she was sympathetic with Katie and could tell her what to do to try to help, and because she had been through it herself.
I fell a bunch of times in the past. Try not to do that now.
Yeah,
I fell off a hog pen, broke my arm when I was real young.
Yeah.
And that was a special kind of pain there.
Several years ago, me and Matt was down at Granny's helping her, and we were all out and working in the garden, and she fell with me and Matt right there with her and broke her wrist. So, yeah, bad to fall. We was within 10 feet of her, and she fell.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, or any kind of falling, even more now, climbing trees, so much hunting. I'm trying to be a little more conscious of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Matt was talking about his sawzall. It reminds me of all those times of you and Daddy working. When y'all first started building houses, you didn't hardly have any kind of battery-powered anything,
No,
did you?
Had none.
Had nothing?
No, we didn't have a nail gun. We didn't have no kind of... we had like corded
Saws
jigsaws and a skill saw and that sort of thing, but we hand drove everything with hammer and nails. Anything got screwed was with a screwdriver, drilled and screwed. I mean, it was just the way it was in the beginning. I mean, that stuff was out back then. It's just we didn't have it. But we acquired it over time as we kept working. It didn't take me long to figure out a nail gun's a fantastic thing. It'd save a whole lot of time, and we bought one. And used it till it broke, and then bought another one, and then from that, I never was without one after that. And then I had finished guns and all that sort of thing. But I still know how to do it the other way. I just don't do as near as much of any of it anymore. But
Right.
but it's good to know. It's good to know how to do stuff without that,
Yeah.
And I do. And if I don't, I'll study on it till I can figure it out. I think usually come up with some way of doing something. It may not be exactly right, but I'll figure it out somehow or another.
Yeah, those nail guns and screw guns and battery-operated saws and all that, they're really handy.
They are.
Especially if you're like Matt and Daddy was doing in those days, building houses for somebody. You're trying to work and hurry, but they're handy for yourself too. But there is something about that, just being able to brute force do it.
Yeah, there's a satisfaction in hard work that I think people don't even know that now. They got away from it for the most part, but a lot of the older people, a lot of people will understand that. And I don't want to just kill myself all the time working, but it's good to work, and it's good to work yourself all the way tired, as old people said. It's good for you. I've heard old people say I'm tired, but it's a good kind of tired.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, and you can look back at what you've done, and there's some satisfaction in being able to see what all that hard work ended with, you know.
Yeah. There is something. I've done both. I've not worked as hard as Matt, I'm not saying that, but physical labor my whole life, because that's just the kind of life we led even when I was growing up. But then I've also done, because my career before I was doing this with you wonderful people was, you know, behind a computer lots of times. I'm still behind a computer a lot, but and that there's a mental challenge in that. You know, I had deadlines and had stuff I had to do and I was responsible for, and you're tired at the end of the day and your brain is just like, you know, it's real work is what I'm trying to say. It is real work. I've done that. But there is something so rewarding about working with your hands. If you're, you know, working in the garden, if maybe you're like Granny crocheting, you're harvesting stuff and then putting it up, or building stuff like Matt does, chopping wood, all those things. There's just somehow a real satisfaction from working with your hands. I don't know. I guess that's just how we're created.
Yeah, I think.
And there's a satisfaction, I'm not saying there's not, when I was working and I had a deadline and I finished it and I was proud of my project. There's a satisfaction in that too. But I prefer the satisfaction from the physical labor somehow.
Yeah, and it keeps you active and physically somewhat fit even as you get older if you stay with it, stay busy, you know.
Yeah.
Sitting down ain't good for nobody.
No, and of course we know some people don't have no choice.
Right.
Like Granny, she can't,
Right.
and it kills her. But she can't get out in the garden and hoe and do. Even at that, several years ago when she broke her wrist, she couldn't do like
Right.
what she once could. When she could just take off and go do. We understand there's people that just can't do that.
But I'm going to do it as long as I can. I mean, you know, I'm going to have to slow down as time goes on. I understand that, but I'm going to stay, you know, doing what I can do for myself as long as I can. If I get to where I can't do it, then so be it. But while you can, it's a good idea to do it.
Yeah. Y'all really thought you was something when you got the first nail gun or the
Gosh,
first
yeah.
sawzall or whatever, didn't you?
Yeah, we used that thing. We had a sawzall first. I saw somebody had one on a job site somewhere, and I said, "Now that's a fine thing right there. We need one of those." And we got one, and it was a corded, and you know, it wasn't battery operated. It was with a cord, and I've still got it, that exact one. And don't use it hardly ever, but it wasn't long ago I used it for something, because I think my battery sawzalls, the batteries are so old, and I've had it so long that the batteries won't even charge on it. So I remembered having the corded one, and I got it out and used it, and it worked just as good as it ever did. And it's just you got to drag the cord around.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about a battery going dead, but it's a little more aggravation with a extension cord, but it works. And I even use a hacksaw something, just like I did today. I didn't want to go drag a cord and go dig that thing out. And I knew that hacksaw was right in the back seat of the truck, so I just got it and used it.
It's I like to think about, like, even our house, Matt and Daddy built it, and other people helped them along the way, but mostly them, and Paul, I guess, was the other main worker in that. But anyway, I like to think about every nail was hammered, right?
Yeah, in that house.
Every nail hammered. Somebody hammered it in.
Right.
Every nail, every place. You know, it's just something to really think about.
There's lots of them too, because the subfloor in that house is 1x6s, as opposed to, you know, now they've got stuff like Advantech that's 4x8 sheets of plywood that's waterproof, so that it don't get wet and buck up before you can get it dried in. We did that one with 1x6s, so there's a whole lot of nails doing it that way. There's a whole lot of nails anyway, but
Right.
it took, it seems like it took a couple of days to get the subfloor on that house, because you're just on your hands and knees with 8-penny nails and a hammer, nailing every single, and you're just going 6 inches at a time
Yeah.
in width. So it took a while.
I think we got pictures of people working. We had help that day. I think Buster Laney's one of them on there hammering some.
Yeah. But it makes a stout house doing it that way. It's
Yeah.
just a little slower.
Of course, if you was going to build a house today, you'd use a nail gun.
If I was going to build a house today, I would hire somebody else to build it, because I don't want to do that again.
Oh, gosh.
I absolutely don't want to do no more. I mean, I enjoy it, and I enjoyed doing it, but to me, something that big now is just, it's just too monumental for me to even think about wanting to do, you know. It's just too much.
Leave that to the youngins.
I'd rather be slipping off up in the woods or something, taking it easy.
Those were real joyful times, though, when Matt and Daddy's working together. Daddy'd usually come up here early in the morning to just for them to start their day, but he also had the ulterior motive. He'd want to come and see Corey and Katie. Those his little jewels. He'd come up here and come in and
get a cup of coffee.
Wait
on the truck to warm up.
Wait on the truck to warm and try to get Corey and Katie to drink coffee. He's feeding them coffee. And, so those were real joyful times.
They were.
Remember one time I don't know what it was, I was complaining about, or I was tired and wore out, you know, chasing after Corey and Katie. They was just little toddlers, and he said, "Why, Tipper, if that's all I had to do was chase these two little jewels around all day, I'd not complain about nothing." Oh, you're right, Daddy. You're right.
Yep, that is correct.
Those were good times.
They were. They was wild as a buck, too, them two was. You pull them out of something they wasn't supposed to be in, and they'd run right straight towards something else they wasn't supposed to be in.
Yeah. You learned a lot, though, from Daddy.
Oh, yeah. I learned anything about carpentry I learned from him.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never built nothing.
And he had, when he was young man, I guess in his late teens, or he worked in construction, different places, but his uncle, my great uncle Frank, he did like big construction jobs, and he lived in Ohio for a time, and then even in California. And Daddy went to those places and worked for him. You know, it was like in Ohio, he said it was like a crew of men, and they like build a house. I can't remember how fast it was. It's unbelievable.
It was like
in a subdivision or something.
It was like in a week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable how. I mean, they had different crews doing the different things, but how fast they would go. And I think that's where he was at when he was drafted into the military.
Right.
But anyway, and then years later, when he was got out of the Marines, he had the GI Bill, so he went to our little local college, Tri-County Community College. That's where me and Matt worked for so long. But at that time, they had like all the building trades. So they had construction, I don't know if it was called carpentry or what it was, and like block laying, masonry, and electrical, all those different things. So he went through that primarily just to learn all those skills himself, to add to what he already knew, so that he could build his own house. That's what he wanted to do. So he did. And then he went on to build lots of other houses. So, and other things too. But that was where he learned from.
And then I learned it from him.
Yeah.
I think I'd done a little bit of off and on of just little small things here and there, but I didn't know what I was doing. And then it, you know, I learned how it ought to be done and how you should do it and the right way from him.
Yeah. And you have a mechanical mind anyway. You're already, I mean, you see something like that, you can just take to it. Like I can't understand how it all goes together, but you can. Your mind already works like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would laugh, though, about the bank. I don't think he'd be for that. Daddy,
this?
yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he'd say, no, I wouldn't be growing up there.
No, he wouldn't.
I wouldn't do that. He'd laugh about that.
Yeah, he would.
He'd say, why?
I don't think he was real impressed with these little beds we had in the yard here.
I think he liked them all right, but he wouldn't care nothing about the bank. He wouldn't have been for that. Those beds have done good, though, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've done good.
And they'll continue.
Yeah.
Be a little easier to, once I get done, it'll be a little easier to get up and down and get to them. We can plant more stuff, different stuff, or whatever in them, and at least it gives us a little bit more area in this little bitty place we've got here.
Yeah, on the goat bluff.
Yep.
I was thinking, though, while I was cleaning up the winter squash, I didn't even tell Matt I got a lot of winter squash. I did also cut the okra, got some okra while I was out. But I was thinking when I was cleaning, I tried to clean up some of that mess that we've let grow up, just like we did everything this year because of all of our other obligations. But there's one great thing about living on the Goat Bluff. Well, there's lots of great things. I'm happy where we live, but it's so easy when you're cleaning up to throw stuff off the bank. That's why I was getting all those squash vines and just throwing them.
Yeah, it's just a steep off the backside here. That's where everything goes.
You just never, I mean, you don't miss it.
You don't even see it.
No, you don't know it's there. You don't miss it. And it just goes, and it rots away, and it's fine. But
over time, it just goes away, and you never even, once it leaves your hands, that's the end of it.
Yeah, I thought that's one really positive thing here when you're like pulling weeds and cleaning up the squash stuff. You just, and it's gone. You don't have to worry about it. I was glad though that I decided to clean up a little bit because I thought I'd got all the winter squash, and then when I was cleaning up I found one more.
Yeah.
Just buried in the weeds. And there's a lot of weeds down there. Hopefully we can, I wonder if we till it over 2 or 3 times this winter, which if we do the cover crop, I don't guess we can do that, but I just wondered if it would help with the squash bugs. Because when I was pulling all that stuff up, they're just scurrying along. There they all are. All their different stages of life, I could just see scurrying around.
Yeah, we can till the whole place 2 or 3 times if you want.
Yeah, I just said if we planted a crop cover, though, then we wouldn't till that in till next.
Oh, that's true.
Which if we don't get started on it, we ain't going to do that.
Yeah, we got...
It's October already.
Yeah.
So... We saw, me and Matt's excited, saw that maybe the first 30s that we'll experience are forecasted for this weekend.
Yeah, buddy. Can't wait.
It'll be nice.
I may come out here in my drawer tail about daylight and crow like a rooster.
You probably will.
Yeah.
You've been known to do that. Yeah.
I ain't done it in a long time.
Yeah.
Boy, I like that cold weather. Especially after this.
Yeah, well, it's been been nice though. It's been in the 50s for what, 2 weeks of the morning.
Yeah, but it's been getting up hot
during the day. Yeah.
There's something about when it gets into October and it gets up into the 80s. It seems hotter somehow or another to me. I don't know. It's just a blistering hot, but all the heat's that way to me. I can't tolerate it.
Well, you can look forward to the weekends.
Yeah,
cooler weather.
I can't wait.
Leaves are just beginning to turn. You see some reds and some yellows and oranges. I guess you've about come unfed.
I'm starved absolutely to death. I didn't eat much breakfast and I worked hard. I've got to eat something.
Got to eat. Well, I guess we better go in and get Matt something to eat. We're always grateful when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia. On days when we don't do much, or days like today when Matt's having to do that hard labor. What was it you said, though? There's such a joy in it, but there's a reward at the end, and that reward's going to be that we can climb up and down, scurry up and down the bank.
Right. Blue Jay's raising cane.
Yeah.
I've got hours worth of stuff to pick up. Tools and such.
We need to clean out this bed right here. We've just left it. Now this cooler weather has really made the nasturtiums. They've had like a new spurt of growth.
Gosh, I got to mow the yard one more time at least.
Yeah, you could just leave it.
I'd like to get all this stuff buttoned up and done.
Well, I put a roast on for supper.
Kind of roast beef.
Yeah.
What else we having with it?
I got some of those little, white sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
I got some of those. I'm going to make some of those. Maybe some green beans.
Oh, that'll be good.
Cornbread.
I better be careful with my lunch and not try to not eat much. I'm trying not to eat as much. But I still ain't got no willpower whatsoever. I'm just like a puppy.
Yeah.
You throw it in front of me and I'll eat it till I'm sick. I don't know why, but I can't beat that, but I can't.
Well, you expend a lot of energy too, so it takes a lot of food to keep you fueled up and going.
Yeah, I know, but it ain't good for you to just eat yourself till you can't breathe like I do.
No, I feel better when I don't eat.
I do too, and I felt a whole lot better this morning up until till I run out of gas.
Try not to eat too much and then eat a big supper. Some people do it the opposite. They try to eat a lot during the day and then eat a light supper. But supper's what I cook every day.
Yeah.
Don't always cook nothing for breakfast or dinner. But
I had almonds and grapes and cheese and yogurt for breakfast. You ever hear tell of me doing something like that? That's what I ate. And a big glass of water.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm usually the ham and eggs and gravy and biscuits guy.
Yeah.
I ain't had to labor so much of. I mean, it didn't drag me down as much as that stuff
especially when
does.
you're doing that kind of laboring with a mattock and a shovel.
But now I'm shaking. I'm so hungry.
Let's go. Get you something to eat.